What's up, guys? Welcome to Miranda Detailing. So we are here at the Bays in Chicago doing a ton of filming. I hope you enjoy the rest of the videos. They're going to be down below. Today we are with Chris from Dr. Beasley's and we're going to be focusing on caring for your vegan leather. So we're here with Chris from Dr. Beasley's and we're going to be talking about vegan leather. The pros, the cons, where does it come from, why are they putting it in vehicles, but most importantly, how do you clean and protect it? So let's get into that. Thank you, Chris, for joining us here today and explaining vegan leather and how to clean and protect it. So we have a seat here. This is actually Jason's seat out of his Tesla. And of course, it's pure white. It's gonna get messy, it's gonna get dirty. But we're dealing with vegan leather here, so not a natural substance. What's the deal with vegan leather?
So vegan leather, obviously, is something we're seeing more and more, not only in the automotive industry, but also home and even fashion as well. And it is an alternative to real hide leather. So I mean, not to everyone's taste is to go with the skin directly off the animal. So this is where we have what we call vegan leather. Better than vinyl. This isn't the vinyl of old, but still this is a synthetic material that is petroleum derived. Yeah. So in the end, this is still a synthetic and has to be treated differently than a real hide leather.
So what are the pros and cons to it though?
So very consistent. The pros to it are very consistent when it comes to finish, when it comes to grain, all that, because you're embossing the grain pattern, you're creating the color. So this is going to be much more consistent as far as not only the coloring, but the finish of the leather compared to a natural hide, where you might have heavy graining here and lighting graining here and so forth. Also, to be able to produce it in great amounts quite easily, and the process is much different than tanning a hide. The process of tanning a hide is, let's say, not the most ecological process in the world. So this, no chromium baths when you get to vegan leather, so that is an advantage of it.
Any cons to vegan leather?
It is a couple of things. One, it is much less porous than real hide leather. That means it is those pores, there are less of them, they can be more easily clogged, which means it's harder to keep it conditioned and malleable. And the real key here is you got to understand, this is a polyurethane essentially. So its natural structure, it's rigid. So we want to keep it, you have to feed it and you have to keep it conditioned so that way we have that most soft, supple hand to it and it actually gets comfortable and then will wear, because the fact is, this is not as durable as a real hide leather. It's just not. So it takes a little bit special care. We got to keep it cleaner, because again, if there's dust and dirt and anything on here, that's going to be an abrasive when you're sitting rubbing on and off. So it's important to keep your vegan leather clean, but it's also important to condition it, but we have to condition it with the appropriate conditioners, because if we just go with, say, a lanolin-based conditioner, that's going to be, that lanolin is too viscous, too thick, and it's going to clog the few pores that are there.
And just worst case scenario, if you were just to let this go in the sun and never do anything to it, I mean, what would happen to it?
It's going to dry and crack. I mean, typically with synthetic leathers, one of the first failure points when they dry and get rigid is where the stitching is. Because obviously, you got little holes poked here. And so this is typically where you see the initial failure point come with a synthetic leather. Yeah,
that makes sense. It'll dry out, it'll pull apart, tear, that makes sense. So, and I mean, that really goes across the board with a lot of materials anyway, even natural. They'll last a little bit longer. Anything in the sun, the UV rays and just the exposure, the heat, expansion and contraction, and you need to do something to protect it. You can't just let it go. So let's get into the cleaning. We have some new products from you guys.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So we're going to start with our vegan leather cleanser. Now, we call it vegan, and it's actually kind of two ways it's vegan. Number one, it's intended to be used on vegan leather. But also, this is a vegan formulation. So no animal byproducts. So what we've done here, we've actually used some plant-based materials to help with the cleaning, including what we call fermented corn maize, which is a nice way of fermented corn. But we don't like to bring up corn because that sounds like corn syrup, and if your wife is anything like mine, corn syrup is not allowed anywhere around the house. So we like to call it fermented corn maize because it is not corn syrup.
That sounds nice.
The point is, we're using plant-based elements here to work on our vegan leather. So again, very mild smell too. I mean, this is all very clean, very, if you have sensitive smell and stuff like that, this is going to be a great product for you. Very mild and very safe, because again, the last thing we want to do with this is essentially like a plastic. You don't want to put APC, a high pH APC is going to destroy this.
Exactly.
You know, it's going to cause it to prematurely break down and fail.
Yep.
So this is why, again, you have to use the appropriate cleanser for something like this.
Yeah, that makes sense. If you ever done any research on pH levels with cleaners, especially all-purpose cleaners, degreasers, you have that high pH. High pH alkaline will dissolve oils and fats and things like that. And plastics are made from oils and fats, so it's going to break that stuff down. So yeah, you have to use the right cleaners for these types of things. Being white like this, you're looking at this and it's like, man, this is sensitive. You don't want to put anything strong on it. You don't want to clean it too aggressively. And you're absolutely right. So these products are going to be the least aggressive, but still the most effective. Now this is nice. You can actually just spray this stuff right on without having to worry about it like staining anything.
No, absolutely. I mean, it is a very mild cleanser. I mean, actually, you know, Dr. Beasley's, we don't have an APC because we believe if there's a substrate, there is a specific chemical for that substrate. But if there ever was an APC, this would actually be it, because this is mild enough to pretty much work on any surface on in your interior.
Oh, that's cool.
So I'm not worried about any overspray at all.
So you can use this on your dash and all the other areas in your Tesla as well, right?
Absolutely,
Oh,
absolutely.
cool.
I mean, the biggest thing, like any chemical, we just don't want it drying on the surface.
Right.
Don't spray it on there, pull it out in the sun, and let it air dry. That's not what we want.
Exactly, makes sense. Now, if you do need to get a little aggressive, could you use like a little brush or something like that?
Absolutely. You know, a leather brush. You know, Autofiber. I think it's Autofiber has these great little scrubbers that is kind of a more rough microfiber type material.
Yeah, those little micro fingers.
Exactly. Because I don't know. To me, even the horsehair interior brush, even though it's widely accepted as, you know, good to use on leather, to me it makes me nervous on something this nicely finished.
True.
So before I get to that actual brush, I would rather go to a more aggressive towel. And again, we can always up our aggression, which we did get pretty good clean there.
Yeah.
But remember, and I feel people forget about this, we can also up our aggression with multiple applications and longer dwell time. So it's not about going back at this with a more aggressive tool or more aggressive chemical. If I didn't get, you know, because people so much want that Windex experience, that spray, wipe, wow, like that's not reality. You know, if I need to come back, this is not a fail if I got to come back with a second application. And even better yet, give it dwell time.
Cool.
I'm sitting here, I'm watching it, and if I feel it's going to dry up on me, I can just spray some more on there.
Yeah.
And by keeping this chemical active on the surface, it's continually to break down those contaminants that are sitting on the surface, and I'm still using a chemical that is safe for the substrate instead of getting risky with something that's more aggressive. So before I'm going to a more aggressive tool or a more aggressive chemical, I'm going to multiple applications and longer dwell times.
And this is basically pH neutral, so there's no needing of rinsing anything or like neutralizing it or anything.
Exactly. I mean, listen, if you really wanted to go to the nth degree, you could hit it with a pH neutralizer, but I mean, like with this, is such a mild product. As long as we clean it up and get it wiped up, we are going to be just fine.
Sometimes with leather, vinyls, and things like this, we'll just use a second damp towel, and it's just water wrung out to like do a final rinse. And I don't know, for some people, for us, it just kind of feels like, all right, I feel like I'm rinsing all the product off if it's needed, but not all products need that. So, but it is just a tip to keep in mind. All right, so we got it nice and clean. It's looking good. And again, if you need to get into these little like areas here in the stitching, use little brushes, use air, compressed air gently if you need to do that. But this is looking good, looking nice and clean. So again, even though it's clean, we're still gonna need some sort of protection to put on here to keep it malleable, to keep it nourished. So what's the next step?
So here we have Dr. Beasley's Vegan Leather Cream. So very unique, very clean product, very scent, very mild scent, very clean. This isn't really this is not an air freshener. You're not gonna have some new smell in your car or anything like that. So again, we considered, who our audience is for this, and that we're gonna be sensitive to those needs. So
can you eat it? It's not that vegan.
Exactly. Speaking of that, our leather cream for standard leather has lanolin in it. So lanolin derived from sheep's oil, and that's again to feed the leather, to keep it conditioned, keep it moisturized, and make it last for many years.
Exactly.
So lanolin in this case wasn't the best solution for this problem because again, as we discussed earlier, fewer pores, less porous than leather, and lanolin is more viscous. So what we're using in this product is actually grapeseed oil.
Cool, okay.
So less viscous, we're able to condition the leather, but also, again, staying with the whole vegan theme that this product is also a vegan formulation.
That's cool.
And so as far as using the product, I usually get pretty generous with it, because what I find is, even though this isn't real leather, you still need to feed it, as we discussed before, you need to keep it malleable.
Yeah.
Because its natural state is rigid. So what we really want to do is I get pretty generous with it, but again, one of the things you'll love about this product, you notice it's not soaking into my applicator. It's sitting on top. Thickness is a very important element to Dr. Beasley's, because again, it's part of efficiency. If it's soaking into your applicator, it's wasted.
Yeah, true.
So usually when I'm applying, initially in my initial application, I'm going to try to go wider areas, not over stitching, because I don't want to jam this cream into the stitching.
Yep.
So I kind of, I'll get myself started a little bit, and then kind of go into these side areas. But one thing, Phil, I think people really miss out on, and this is something I bring with me from my 20 plus years in the furniture industry and importing leather furniture from Italy, is, again, a lot of people would condition leather, and this applies whether it's real leather or faux leather, vegan leather such as this, but you really want to let this sit on the surface. Now, we are going to get, in the end, an OEM finish with this. But you'll see here that this is sitting on the surface. I want to give this a good 5 or 10 minutes. And if I come back and there's still product on the surface, great, I'm good. I'm going to wipe up any residue with a microfiber and be done. But what I find more times than not, within 5 minutes time, this is going to be completely disappeared. And that's telling me the material is thirsty.
Got it.
It's dried out and we need to keep on feeding it. So this is where I would start in the back seat, go to the backrest, come back to the seat. And if by the time I got here and I got back to where I started and this was completely dry over here, I'm going for another application. Because again, that's telling me this material is thirsty. And that's leather too.
Yep.
If you put a leather conditioner on a leather and just gone, come back with it and come back with it until it sits on the surface for at least a few minutes.
Okay, then it's absorbed into it.
So the other benefits of this, we're going to keep it soft and malleable, which is the point. But we also going to have, by keeping it soft and malleable, we're also going to extend the life of the product. Because again, the more rigid it is, the harder it is, and the more harsh it is when we're sitting, where we get rubs. Coming from the furniture industry, we measure material in the amount of rubs it has before it fails. So 10,000 rubs, 100,000 rubs, a million rubs. If we want to get maximum durability out of this, again, it's about maintaining it. We got to keep it clean, we got to keep it conditioned, and you will extend the life of this product and get decades out of it.
Now, how often do you need to either clean it? Well, cleaning is kind of obvious. When it gets dirty, you clean it. But what about the protection itself? Like, how often do you need to do that?
If I'm cleaning on conditioning, I take a shower, I get out of the shower, I put lotion on. You know why? Because my skin's all dry because I just cleaned it. So again, we're cleaning it and we're pulling off our body oils that we transferred over to it because it got shiny and this and that and whatever contaminants or else is on the surface. But we want to come back with that conditioning step every single time.
Good.
So at minimum, I like to see people clean their interiors quarterly. If it's, thinking average, 12,000 mile a year garage kept car type thing. But if I'm cleaning it, that's part of my process. I'm coming back with that condition 100% of the time.
Exactly. If you're going to be spending the time doing that anyway, have both of those products and protect it at the end. So that makes sense. Quarterly, if it's like really, really a dirty vehicle, or if it's a daily driver that's just getting trashed all the time, you're going to have to take care of it. If you don't, it's going to show its age. It's just going to be disgusting. Definitely take care of it and clean it as often as you can. Monthly, bi-monthly, quarterly at a minimum, because if you let it go any further than that, you're just asking for it. It's not going to stay looking nice and clean and conditioned. You're not going to get the life out of it. So
absolutely,
awesome.
and you can see, and since we've been talking here,
it all dried out.
It's pretty much all absorbed. So honestly, I'm going to come back with a little bit more, and I'm going to continue to feed this. And again, you're left with a OEM finish and a beautiful satin hand. So in the leather business, that's what we call it. It's the hand, the leather is the feel of it. So the highest end, most beautiful, most supple leathers we'd always talk about what a beautiful hand that leather has. And that's really what we're trying to come across here, is to get that real beautiful hand that you would find on a real leather hide.
So guys, if you are interested in picking up these products, if you have a Tesla or any other vehicle that has vegan leather, or if you have any vegan leather in your home, any of your furniture, you can use this on that as well. So I'll have links down below. Don't forget to use code Miranda10. You'll get 10% off at Car Supplies Warehouse. And Chris, again, thank you, man.
Pleasure as always, Phil.
Appreciate all the information. always good to know. And go and check out all the other creators' videos. I'll have all their channels listed down below, because here at this event, we're doing tons of these videos, lots of tutorials, how-tos, and we're with the vendors themselves, getting this information from them. Thank you guys for watching. Don't forget to subscribe and click that bell so you don't miss stuff. And we'll see you guys next time.